Headwaters.
I'm riding along with people and I say, look yonder. Yonder's the most beautiful scene that I've ever saw. I see the technicolor color of the mountains. They're taking out the things that God provided and put forth for us. They've taken it out, and they're leaving us nothing. They're leaving us nothing.
It was a cause I would have died for.
Fly, fly away, little pretty bird. Fly, fly away. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on Jesus. I woke up this morning with my mind. Some of your grandmamas used to sing this day.
I am a man of constant sorrow. I've seen trouble all my days. I bid farewell to old Kentucky, the state where I was born and raised.
Headwaters. Real stories from rural America.
To Save the Land and People was funded by the Kentucky Humanities Council, KET Fund for Independent Production, Kentucky Oral History Commission, Commission on Religion in Appalachia, Ford Foundation.
Strip mining is the most devastating thing that man has ever done to land. It tears up the water system, it tears up the rock systems, it jumbles the soil and redistributes the soil, and initially every plant is killed and every living creature is driven out.
All of the old seed timber is gone. All of the seed that was dropped by the old timber and the old plants, they are all gone. Everything. It is gone. There is no way what has been destroyed here can ever be put back.
There's only one definition for strip mining, and that's a group of prospectors astride bulldozers drunk with the thought of profit.
Exhaustion is apparent on every hand. Exhaustion of soil, exhaustion of men, exhaustion of hopes. Weariness and lethargy have settled closer everywhere, nor has a single symptom of improvement manifested itself. The nation, engulfed in its money-making and international politics, has paid no noticeable heed to its darkest area. Where will this course lead us at last? No one here in this deprived corner of the nation's hinterland would be so bold as to hazard an optimistic prophecy in this grim spring of 1963.
Mom didn't back down from a fight. And sometimes we accused her of liking to fight. I mean, you know, she could be down and the thought of a good fight with a strip miner just perked her right up, and she was ready to go again. I don't know what it was, but she didn't back down.
It was hard. It was beautiful. We had beautiful timber. We had beautiful mountains, and we had hard way of living. After the stripping was done, the people just pulled out with the money, and the coal was sold. And the good effects went to the other ends of the world, not around here. It helped a few working people, you know. It gave them survival kits. But the ones that weren't working and was seeing their property destroyed and ripped apart, it gave them some scars. Instead of wealth, it gave them scars.
There was a great deal of money involved. People were making a fortune on the surface mining. They didn't want any interference. And a great many of those people were tough men. And yes, it was a dangerous time.
It was around 60 and 65 that this big giant auger was brought into the head of Mill Creek. It would load, I believe, 3 or 4 trucks simultaneously. And I took some visitors out there to show them this wonderful piece of machinery. We were all that naive at the time, and we thought they were stripping or augering coal on a piece of land owned by the company. But as soon as they finished back there, they just kept going. They used the broadform deed as a means to gain access to other people's property. When they augered the head of this creek, they bored into old deep mines, and that released the acid water. And it came down this creek, killed everything in its path. That's when we organized the Appalachian Group to Save the Land and People, to try to stop all of this destruction that they were doing to the country.
Neighbors, you know, they all began to get so angry for seeing what was going on. Even to them that weren't affected by it, seeing that was coming with them with that. And they began to organize.
I've got property on this creek.
Well, all right, you go down there and defend your property and let this man here defend his. The way I look at it, I think if the man ought to defend his own property.
One little man can't handle an army.
One man can't handle this state police and publishers and everything.
Yes, one man can.
No, one man can't.
They was just starting up the hill there when we come up here and
just making a road.
Forcing their way in on Red Singleton here. No permission at all.
One of their guards, see? He leaned there with a gun.
He's a running, you need to go. He's a coward.
Come back now, he's running.
Yeah, he's run right around that hillside there.
Well, he went right around the hill. If he can't do nothing with seeing
Get him out, get him out.
He won't do nothing with it. Listen to
Hey, cut him off up there, boys.
It was destroying their land, and it slides, and you know, they lived off the land, and it was dear to them. It was part of their very heart and existence. So they didn't want to see it destroyed. Somebody suggested they save the land, and I guess I was the one adding the people. If the land was destroyed, the people were destroyed. So it included the two. I think that's the way I reasoned. One woman weepingly said she had to sit there and watch her baby's coffin being rolled over the hill. The bulldozer went across the hill and she begged them not to go through the graveyard and push her baby. And she said, looked out, she looked up there and there was the baby's coffin come rolling down the hill. And one man said, wouldn't go through and push it off. And the other man said, hell, I will. And he took the bulldozer and went right on through. And there came the coffin rolling down the hill. And she sitting on the porch watching it.
Then forever, then forever.
Well, the broadform deed, it was used by corporations decades earlier to buy up the mineral rights. They didn't buy surface generally, they bought the minerals and left the people to hold the surface and to farm it. But the broadform deed gave them a broad right to take the minerals underneath by any form of extraction that they saw fit.
This is who they're dealing with in 1889. They got it for 27 cents an acre. I rewrote this on a piece of paper so we could, this deed's hard to read. It's been written so long ago. Together with full and complete rights and privileges of every kind for mining and transporting such coal, gases, oil, and minerals on and through and over and under in every form.
You didn't have no rights at all to your own property. You bought it, paid for it, paying tax on it, but you had no right to it. Because they claimed all the rights. Yeah, they even claimed the rock and everything else. Like you didn't have no right to pick up a rock and throw it something. They all belonged to them.
And of course, in those days, nobody contemplated strip mining, or auger mining, or bench mining on the side of a mountain. You only had underground mining. But then the courts interpreted the law and that particular right to mean that you had a right to disturb the surface to recover the coal that you had bought, which I thought was unconscionable.
D.S. Fields, marked, and they got a little X right here. Nancy Ann Fields, her mark.
The deed itself gave the mineral owner the right to extract his coal by any method he so desired. It wasn't practiced too much in the beginning because surface mining wasn't the name of the game in those early days, but it gradually became more and more. And then when surface owners started objecting, the broadform deed was a good subject to complain about. And yet, in referring to my, high school history, when I think of the Louisiana Purchase, I think we bought it from France in 1803 for 3 cents an acre. At that time, they bought the mineral from the mineral owners at evidently the going rate.
Strip mine head of Greasy Creek, about 3 miles long. Strip mine head of Greasy Creek, about 3 miles long. Almost done, almost done. I feel like they're almost done. Rifle laying in Homer's hand, 33 inches long. Rifle laying in Homer's hand, 33 inches long.
It would have taken a young army and all the equipment to put some of the soil back where it washed down the mountain in behind the houses. This is the hazard number 9 coal seam, and it's one of the most acid coal seams in southeastern Kentucky.
In the bulldozer, about 3 inches long. Almost done, almost done.
The operators in Knott County were just doing what they darn well pleased, because the broadform deed allowed them to get that coal regardless.
My Kentucky hills going on too long. They've been stripping my Kentucky hills going on too long. Almost done, almost done. I feel like they're almost done.
Most everybody around here, in some method, today, has been bought. Yeah.
How come they didn't buy you?
They probably didn't think I was worth it. I didn't have enough influence in the community to hurt them or help them, you know, most likely. That's just what they thought. I don't know. They was always interested in, back in the early part of the days, they wasn't interested in, they was always interested in shooting at me, you know. You was either on the side of the money or on the side of the people. You know, when you only have farming and they take away your dirt, then it leaves you in a worse situation than what you are already, you know. We had some people that went out of a day and stood in front of the bulldozers, and then we had some people that went out of a night, and we put them off the property, however that we had to.
Where are you going, said Stephen to Gordon. We may not tell you, said Bethel to those. We're off to the woods, said Dan the Red-Nosed. We're off to the woods, said Dan the Red-Nosed. And what will you do there, said Stephen to Gordon. We may not tell you, said Bethel to those. We'll blow the big dozer, said Dan the Red-Nosed. We'll blow the big dozer, said Dan the Red-Nosed.
You know, people die, you know, they won't be put away. And there's something about mountain people always want to be put away in a homemade coffin. You know, personally, I wouldn't care one way or the other. But, you know, there's always that, you know, that tradition, you know, that there's always somebody in a community somewhere, you know, that makes coffins. They still are. And Dan just happened to be one of those persons who made those beautiful coffins.
He'd take that old gun and hit the hills on them. And he'd use it if he got the chance to. I remember him dragging him out and taking him to jail one time.
This land that Uncle Dan was protecting did not belong to Uncle Dan. It didn't belong to him. It belonged to a stepson who was in Vietnam and who actually got killed. His stepson was over in Vietnam protecting America. The least he could do was go up on that mountain and protect that land from those bulldozers.
So I walked out there with this old gun. I said, I'm 8 years old. Never had no trouble with anybody. Don't want any trouble. But I said, you're not going through here. It's not for sale. I said, the only person who'll take me out there is the undertaker. I said, I'm going to stay here. Well, I went back and sat down. I got looking around, and I said, well, they don't care what to do. Anybody root the dead out of the grave or block hole or kill a man. So I looked out about 10 steps from him. Where they bulldozed in, there's a cliff hanging over. So I went, picked me a place to sit down on this cliff where nobody could hurt me back behind me, see. And all at once, I looked and see 6 low cross line coming around. Sergeant Mitchell was in front, 2 state patrols behind him. Bud Helton, the high sheriff, he's behind them, and 2 deputies. We've come after you. I said, what have I done? Well, you're up here keeping these men working. I said, do these men own this property? Got a deed for it? I don't know. I said, well, you better know. We'll get out of here one or the other. And I said, go now. I don't mean maybe. We're going to take you out. I said, nobody's picked me up with the undertaker, mister. I said, now you go. I've got 7 shells in this gun. And I said, I'll lead you if you don't go.
I found Dan sitting up there drinking coffee and had a .22 rifle across his lap, and I looked over a rock. I peeped over a rock and I saw these state policemen.
Well, they began to beg me to come off the hill, give the gun up. And I said, Eldon, there's one thing I'll do and nothing else. I said, if you go out there and tell old Capel, phone to Bill Sturgill, tell Bill Sturgill, if he'll respect there's no trespass sign, and promise me that he'll never bother me no more, I'll give this gun up and go up on the hill.
They took him to Hyman and put him in jail. And I reckon every officer in town left.
And they charged Dan with felony. And when the word got around, everybody loaded their shotguns and 22s up, and they went to town. They were going to break him out of jail. I mean, they would have been a good old-fashioned jailbreak because everybody was so mad.
Jailer, he come and hollered and said, are you in there, Dan? I said, yeah. He got him locked up, bud. He said, come on out of there. He had the door open by that time. I said, wait till they finish eating what I sent out and boiled. I said, they had nothing to eat here at the jail. I sent and bought my supper I wanted and thrown it away. So I said, still and eat supper and walked out. Come on home, but they ain't never bothered me no more.
the impact really hits you when you campaign this state in a small plane, flying over these devastated areas, and saw that we really had not reclaimed the land, and what a beautiful state Kentucky was, and our responsibility. It's our heritage. And I just wasn't going to be governor without doing something about it. And of course, the governor in those days was more powerful than the governor is today. And the governor had a lot of patronage, and I used every bit of the power that a governor had to get every vote I could. And I had to hire a lot of legislators, cousins and aunts and uncles and children, and I had to promise roads, and it was tough. It was a tough, all-out classic battle. But I remember we had a joint hearing, the House and Senate, in the House chamber. And I called on my old friend Harry Cottle that I'd gone to college with and had served in the legislature. And he brought the Wood of Combs down. And she told about standing in front of the bulldozer, and she told about them arresting her and putting her in jail on Thanksgiving Eve. And of course that picture of the Wood of Combs in jail went all over the world. And when they got through that testimony, there wasn't a bit of noise in the house. It was very dramatic. And when she told her story, I saw some of my friends in the opposition in the gallery give up and shake their heads. They knew they were beat. And they called it up and passed by one vote to Senate.
We thought we were getting controls over it, but we were defining the controls in such a way that the strip mine operator said, hey, if that's the way it's going to be, well, we can figure the slope from the top of the mountain out to the edge of the creek, and we can mine anywhere we want to. And they started doing it right then. They started doing it right then.
$800 would have saved my land, but that banker was a mighty man. There's no more time, was all he had to say. Now I got to leave here, Lord, in 6 more days. I told the spider to move her web. I told the sparrow to move her nest far over the mountains to where the land is green, where there ain't no bankers, no mining machine.
It was a cause I would have died for. My children was grown. I wasn't scared. I put my gun in my pocket. I'd go places. I was a heavy union person, and I believed in it, and I believed in supporting for the rights of the other people. They started stripping on Poor Bottom. Thomas Rattler bought the mineral. And then we had a rain come, and it just flooded us all out. It was just awful. There was an old lady who lived up the road, and it came out right at her house, and a lot of the water did, and it washed, like she had an outside toilet, and it washed her toilet off, and she asked him to rebuild the toilet, and he just made fun of her. And then several people asked him to have the mess cleaned up, and he just made fun of everybody. So that really got the hatred of who stripped. It was, disaster afterwards. And she took him to court, and she won $35 to build the toilet back. Marvin told us that they were going to have a meeting in Owensburg, and the governor was going to be there. And it was mostly coal operators, and they were telling the good thing, strip mining. And they had pictures that they were showing, and they had pictures like grass was 3 foot high and a cattle was in that grass and all this. And so I started going around the wall talking to them, you see, and they said we was disturbing the meeting, and the governor said, if you folks will wait outside, he asked us what we was there for. My big mouth told him what we was there for, and he said, if you'll wait outside, then I'll talk with you. So we just went out on the lawn and sit and sing. Guy Carwin and Candy was with us. We Shall Overcome and different kinds of songs that the civil rights people sing.
We are not afraid.
He told Jink Ray, I'll help you. That was on a weekend, and the next Monday morning then when they started stripping, they called the governor and he flew out in a helicopter.
In my heart, I do believe, yes, that we shall.
I put in there, built there 1926, and I worked hard, common labor, built up a little state place. And it's pretty hard, Governor, for somebody to come in and just tell you to move out and give it up to them.
You know, you're right, and that's why I'm on your side. We have got to find a way first to regulate strip mining in such a way that it will not destroy the land or our people. And we'll work to that effect. If we fail to find a way that we can regulate it satisfactorily, of course, then strip mining on slopes or steep slopes is in serious jeopardy. I mean, the whole thing. I would hope that we are able to find a method to whereby we can hold an industry but still protect the land on these steep slopes. Now, that's our objective. And I promise you that I'll be in there fighting with you constantly. Every minute of my remaining 5 months as governor, and after that as a citizen. I'll be a part of your Land and People group.
Certainly.
And I'll support you in every way.
I'd run out of steam. And all those legislatures that had gotten in deep trouble in their home counties with the coal industry and others have an opportunity to get back on high ground. The pendulum swung way over one way after I left. They said, we finally got rid of old Breathitt and we can go back to business as usual. And they did.
Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe, yes, that we shall overcome.
There was one faction of the Appalachian Group, the Disabled Land and People, that turned the charter in. They said, give it, you know, when it's all over, you know, we're finished. They turned the charter in back to the state. Well, there was this other faction still out there, and we drawed up a charter for the Mountaintop Gun Club. And we were a conservation group. I mean, really a conservation group, you know, and we set up shooting clubs. And what we would do, we would go to a particular landowner whose land might be going to be stripped in the next 6 months. And we would lease the number 7 bench. That was usually the one that they would auger because of the height of the coal. It was easier got to, closer to the surface. We would lease that from the landowner for $1 just to make it legal. And that way the operator could not deal with that individual no more. He had to deal with a group of people, which made it a little more complicated. And all around these benches we had signs, big huge signs up on, you know, like so wide. And on this was writing that said, warning, beware. Mountaintop Gun Club shooting range. Which I thought was a very, you know, and if you're a gun club, you got to have a range, you know. So, and these benches were ideal, you know. You've been up on strip on benches, you know, they're almost level. And you're away from people, you know, you're no danger shooting somebody's old horse or something or other. So that was another tactic that was taken by this other faction of the Appalachian Group, which Uncle Dan Gibson just loved. He just loved it, you know.
One of the leaders of the Harlan County chapter of the Appalachian Group Save Land and People was Reverend Otis King. I really think that he viewed the land as just about sacred. You know, I don't think that's too strong a word, you know, to use for his, you know, for his attachment to land. And I think he brought that understanding and those feelings
to the situation when the Appalachian Group Save the Land and People was formed.
I think one of the beautiful things I've ever saw is in the fall of the year when I look on the technique of the mountains and see the beauty of all of the different colors of the trees. And I'm riding along with people, I say, look yonder. Yonder's the most beautiful scene that I've ever saw. I see the technic color of the mountains. We wonder how long it'll last. We wonder how long we can hold our peace. We wonder how long we can sit and look and watch the greediness of people for an almighty dollar come in and destroy all things that was created for man. And they were coming in from the far corners of America. And they're taken out of our county and our state. They're taking out the things that God provided and put forth for us. They've taken it out, and they're leaving us nothing. They're leaving us nothing.
It's visual. You can see it. Siltation comes from it, as in farming, as in any type of mining. Even erosion just due to nature, like where did the Mississippi River Delta come from? Erosion. They say these companies come in and suck out all the riches and leave nothing but poverty. They don't do that. They pay people wages and they pay taxes and they pay for supplies that is left there. It's a matter of the free enterprise system. This is the way the country grew, and this is the story of this nation.
I think this area should be very happy that corporations such as ours, and U.S. Steel and others, are here. They're good companies, they're honorable companies. If we are wrong in mining coal in eastern Kentucky, and if we are wrong in what is going on in the Appalachian area as far as industry is concerned, then I think this whole country is based on the wrong philosophy. To do it any other way, you're just talking about socialism. So if what we're doing is wrong, then this whole country is wrong.
It would be hard to, red bait Reverend Otis King. The protection of the environment is a very patriotic thing to do. Certainly in the best interest of the vast majority of people in this country. People wanted them to stop strip mining. And it wasn't, a financial thing, or it wasn't just a property rights question. It was the fact that they saw every day how strip miners were really destroying the land. They developed a kind of a public relations effort on their own. And I remember people in Knott County talking about an apple orchard that Bill Sturgill, who was one of the big coal operators in Knott County, had planted on a strip mine, and they used to joke about it and talk about Bill Sturgill's $1 million apple orchard, because he had spent a tremendous amount of money trying to demonstrate for the public relations campaign that that strip mining was really good for the land.
This is called strip mining. Of course, TVA does not mine the coal used in its steam plants. It is simply one of the customers of the mining companies supplying many electric utilities throughout the East. But TVA's long interest in conservation led it to seek improved methods of reclamation. TVA contributed to the technology capable of taking strip-mined land like this and restoring it in a few years to look like this. Again and again, TVA has demonstrated that strip-mined land can be reclaimed.
I don't think there is an essential conflict between TVA's use of strip-mined coal and its conservation interest. We define the word conservation, the use of the earth for the good of man.
Yes, the earth is our apple. And although we can't put the skin back on the apple, TVA has shown that we can restore the earth's skin.
Reclamation is a farce. It's been described as trying to put lipstick on a corpse.
Strip away, big D9 dozer, coming for to bury my home. I'm getting madder as you're getting closer, coming for to bury my home. They're gonna turn our mountain homeland to acid clay, coming for to bury my home, to make a cheaper rate for the TVA, coming for to bury my home. Strip away.
We didn't want to use litigation. There was very little trust in the courts, particularly on strip mining issues. It was all political, and taking things into courts kind of deprives people of their own resolution of issues, and it puts it in the hands of the lawyers, and then the lawyers win or the lawyers lose, but any kind of movement on issues is kind of stopped dead in the tracks to wait for the litigation. But we did work on this ordinance to outlaw strip mining in Knott County.
The Appalachian Group yelled and screamed and got a case in court, and we went to court and testified, and oh, it was fun, I'll tell you. I was scared to death, but it was fun. There was all kinds of strip mine operators over here, and they were fit to be tied.
I remember Doris's testimony about how she had to wade through this mud when she was pregnant to try to get out to be able to deliver her child, and she was in tears when she was saying it too, and it was pretty effective. It started getting pretty raucous, I remember, and this county judge was sitting there, and he was getting red, and you could just see he could feel the pressure, and he finally did what he certainly didn't want to do, and that was he voted with the three to outlaw it, and so it was outlawed at that point. When Bessie Smith and Madge actually stopped the coal trucks coming out of one of these, coming down right on the main road there on Troublesome Creek, I believe that was something that happened right after that, because that was, they were continuing to strip mine. It was unusual because here were people were stopping an operation that the landowners weren't complaining about. It may have been coal company land in there, I don't know whose it was. They loved the land, they loved the creeks, and they didn't want to see any of it destroyed. And the other thing is, if you strip mine on your land, it affects other people too. It doesn't help me to save my land and everything around me be strip mined, really. I mean, it's not the same country, it's not what I love, and I think that's part of the reason that people felt that way about it.
And the men was raving blood, operators and landowners the same. They was yelling blood because they was at each other in a desperate kind of a way. So the women decided that it would be simpler for them to put a little more effect into the organization than standing back and cooking for the others while they was out doing it. So we decided to go on the hill and do it ourselves. It was a bad day. Rain and cold and muddy and...
There was some men with us. There was a few men that had come. They all got stopped at the gate. They did let the women go through finally. We just basically pushed our way through. We were just very effectively cut off from everybody at that point.
We'd stretch a tent, stand under. So the operators knocked the tent down, and the women on the hill was threatened to be raped and pushed around, but still yet we stopped them.
I'd made one trip down and brought my little sister, who was probably 9. The second trip I sent her home, and then the third trip down I brought another sister with me who was 12. We'd started to go back up to tell the people on top of the hill that it was getting ugly, that you know, we were going to have to do something. And this guy stopped me, and he said, "Lady, when you go out of the light," he said, "this bullet doesn't know if you're a woman, man, and doesn't care." So we were kind of forced to stay there. We couldn't go across that fence because he wouldn't let us back, and we couldn't go back up, so we're stuck between the two gates. So we were standing there wondering what to do, and it was getting uglier and uglier and uglier. Now, mind you, I'm here with a 12-year-old, a little girl at that, and people were starting to talk about who they were going to rape first and what they were going to do, and all the stuff they were going to do to us, and it was getting scary. I looked up and I saw them carrying this man, and there was blood all over him. I didn't know how bad he was hurt. But he said, don't say anything. He said, we've had a fight up there, and one of their guys is hurt. So we were standing there holding our breaths, and about the time they got to the gate, one of the fellas with the strip miner said, there go those son of a bitches, said, let's get them. Shirley and I stood in the road. They'd gun their engines and get up just as close to us as they could without hitting us, and then they'd stop so that we could give those guys time to get to the hospital. And after about probably a quarter of a mile of that, we realized they weren't going to stop. We were going to have to do something. So then they started towards us again, and we jumped over the hill, and they took out like a bat out of hell going after those guys and followed them all the way to the hospital. I found out after that it really got ugly up on the hill. Women got hit with rocks, and one of the strip miners got off the dozer and came over and stood with Mom and the other women, or it could have been worse.
We stayed with them until 12 o'clock, till the state police came up on the hill and told us that some kids had gotten hurt, which my kids had came up on the job there where we was at that night, and some other children also. And they took a vote on whether we should go off or not. And we went off.
I had 4 children at that time. I just had twins. They were probably 3 months old. And I really didn't expect that out of Sigmund's. They lived here, for Pete's sake. This was people that lived here. So did Bill Sturgill, for that matter. I don't think I expected them to go to that length to keep us from making a statement. And that's basically what we were doing. I mean, we weren't going to be camped there for 6 months to keep them from working, but we were there to stop them for a day, which we did. A life was not going to stop them, or 2 lives, or 10 lives. They were here to make money, and they'd proven it more and more and more. You don't push graves over. You don't push old women off the hill. You don't do any of the stuff that they were doing. And I guess most of all, you don't do to the country what they were doing. It was probably 15 years later, or close to it, that a group of us got together to talk about that particular incident. My kids were shocked. I guess I wanted them to know that we're not just dumb hillbillies, and we have a heritage here that some people thought were worth preserving and fought to preserve, and that they need to know about that. They know some of it. They know about Dan Gibson and Ollie Combs, and they know about the graves that were pushed over. And we took our son over to Quicksand when he was about 12 or 13, I guess, and this is untouched, just gorgeous. And he looked around and he said, Mom, all should be this way. We should not have to go back out and see the top of a hill taken off. They played in the creek and they caught crawdads and minnows. And there was a time that you could do that here. And I don't understand even now why, for the sake of $1, and I know we all have to live. I have to work like everybody else does. But there ought to be things that are off limits.
Is it possible to strip mine without destroying land?
Oh, come on, man, you know better than that. Absolutely not.
Martin County is very limited on level land, and the mining operation right here will more than double the level land in Martin County. With this project, we feel that we're returning or actually transforming the land into useful farmland.
The first thing that we needed to do was to develop this project using animal production to get the manure to go on the ground to help put in some humus and organic matter.
The manure from the swine is flushed from the buildings directly into a nearby holding lagoon. From the lagoon, the liquid manure is pumped onto the reclaimed land through a sprinkling system similar to an irrigation system. The swine operation will produce approximately 6,000 tons of manure per year.
Martiki is a project that any state could be proud of, to have the operation in the state. They abide by the environmental laws, the reclamation laws, and are being a very good citizen to the community area.
I've been on a strip job about 27 years. I run a dozer for 25 years. It was really bad. We was down in Lots Creek below Hazard there a couple times, and they could really just force their way across these landowners. But this guy I worked for didn't do that, because he just worked everything that was peaceful. Actually, back then, when they first started, they just stripped and pushed everything over on these people, and that's why they was so hot down there. No, I would have quit. I wouldn't have went. I don't believe in stuff like that. It's been hard, you know, but I wouldn't have pushed my way on that. Used to be a lot of people around here that definitely was strictly against strip mining, so I hardly ever mention about what I do, you know. Some people don't even know what I do. I tear up a lot of ground and destroy a lot of timber, but I guess let's say he put enough here for us, didn't he?
It's a pretty beautiful country anyway, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
When I see the mountains anymore, in general, they're tore up, despair. It's not the same place I lived. Was raised, you know, this is not the same kind of country. And the people don't feel toward each other like they did 30 years ago. There was a different feel toward the land here then than there is now. People thought they had more to hold to. They don't feel like they have anything to hold to here anymore.
Dan Gibson, he said, they never went to the moon. He never did believe it. He said, they went on a strip mine. I said, they went up on a strip mine site and took them pictures.
We'd gotten up on this strip job. They'd hauled us up there. And while we were up there, this guy come behind us in a D9 dozer and began pushing rocks over into the road so we couldn't get out. And so, you know, we'd been blocked up there. We had no way getting out of there. You know, we couldn't got back off the hill. Well, Uncle Dan Gibson, I don't know where you remember, he had, I forget how many fingers he had off on his hand. He had them sawed off at a sawmill. He just reached down and picked up 2 sand rock in each hand. And as the old saying here in the mountains is, he couldn't drive at that man's head with that sand rock. And when he did that, he didn't have to throw the second one. When they filled the first one, he jumped off the dozer, never even shut the engine off, and run off. You know, so I've always said, you know, that one sand rock was worth 1,000,000 words. And Uncle Dan proved that.
This whole country started out confronting the powers that be. We built this nation on that right, the right of revolution.
Strip away, big D9 dozer, coming for to bury my home. I'm getting madder as you're getting closer, coming for to bury my home. Well, I looked up a spoiled bank, and what did I see? Coming for to bury my home. The Island Creek Company pushing down my trees, coming for to bury my home. Strip away, big D9 dozer, coming for to bury my home. I'm getting madder as you're getting closer, coming for to bury my home. Well, boys, we gotta organize against them strip mine men, coming for to bury our homes. And the broadform.
Thanks be to God, they can't come on your place without permission. You can say no, and they have to go on back. He that destroys the land, him God will destroy. You know, I have difficulty speaking just the way I do feel about it. But I certainly didn't think it was any wrong what we were trying to do to protect what we had and what our children and their grandchildren had, and our neighbors, our loved ones that we loved.
Americans have never understood or respected the finely textured, little hill terrain of the Cumberland Plateau. Even the pioneers knew little of its somber, magnificent forest, and they warred upon it and its creatures. Neither the farmers nor the miners who followed them saw it as a place to cherish, but vied with one another in the harshness of their treatment. Through decades that have lengthened to nearly 2 centuries, the land has fought back, sometimes with savage floods and always with persistent efforts to reforest. In the past, there was so much that this ignorance and waste could be tolerated. But now time runs out and our inexhaustible resources have turned finite. Exploited peoples, like exploited lands, turn troublesome, and the plunders of one generation must be paid for in the sweat, blood, and taxes of the next. If the United States of America are to survive as a free and democratic union, they will learn from this region's tragedies and follies. Unless those tragedies and follies are understood, they will be repeated elsewhere, until one of mankind's greatest experiments is needlessly lost. The Kentucky Cumberlands are many things, but most of all, they are a warning.
To Save Land and People was funded by the Kentucky Humanities Council, KET Fund for Independent Production, Kentucky Oral History Commission, Commission on Religion in Appalachia, Ford Foundation.
For information on this Headwaters program, visit www.appleshop.org or call 1-800-545-SHOP.